Okay, so the current time is 10 a.m. and we're already, if you recall those screenshots, Google weather is not on par, and I did have that. Um, yeah, I did have my GPS on or my location on, so it was bringing up my area and its predicted weather. So we already can see that the time frame is not, like I said, on par. Okay, so with that being said and seen, we really need to jump into this video here. I've got a lot to cover, and I want to, get it done and over with as quick as possible. I am currently uploading the first video of this morning, which you should have already watched by now, because remember, everything that I put out there for the most part is in chronological order, so that way you can see the evolution from day to day or week to week, whatever the case may be. So while I set myself up, I will put this on pause and we're going to jump right into it. Okay, so basically, the main topic is that of that so-called secret society known as the Freemasons, the Knights Templar, um, and I'm just going to throw out quite a few little factoids relating to all that, and we're going to attempt to slowly connect all the pieces together. Like I said previously, I don't know my connection in all this, okay? I don't know why I have to bring this kind of content out. Um, because basically I really have no interest in this, okay? This this subject material I honestly have no interest in, but for some reason it keeps being thrown in my face. Therefore, I what else am I going to do with that kind of information other than share? Correct? Okay. Now then, I'm not going to go into great detail or anything, you know, in specific. Like I said, I just want to throw some factoids at you. Okay, so in 1118 AD, or Common Era, however you want to label it, um, the Templar Knights had taken control of the city of Jerusalem in Israel. Okay. Um, Now in 1312, the Knights Templar was disbanded. Um, and you can go ahead and do your research into all that as far as the excommunication from the church, the executions that took place, which was on Friday the 13th, and therefore that's why we have that superstition of Friday the 13th. Um, and one of the main iconic symbols is that of some form of a red cross. Okay, and um, and during this time period in which they had control of Jerusalem, basically a little over 100 years or so, or 200 years, yeah, 200 years or so, or thereabouts. Actually, they were part of the Crusaders, and all of that took place for a period of like 500 years in total. Okay, but once again, I'll let you do your own research into them, um, according to your interests and all that. But this does get interesting. Okay, so the Knights Templar were the first. Well, they let me say they were the first ones, the first group to begin a centralized banking system. Okay, now this plays an important factor, as we will see. Now, why were they excommunicated from the church? And of course, we were talking about the Vatican and the Pope and all that during that time period. Is because they were being accused of practicing the dark arts or black magic, basically, if you will. Okay. Now, at that period of time, the leader of the Knights Templar, um, after the excommunication and the arrest and all that, his form of execution was being burnt at the stake. Now then, as that execution was taking place, he had shouted out one last curse, if you will, in which it was against the Pope at that time and the King of France, in which he basically told them both that they would both die before the end of that year. Okay? In which, long story short, that is exactly what happened. Now then, once again, it's like anywhere that I look, any kind of a topic anymore, I am seeing some kind of connection to this society. Okay? And you got to understand there's a difference between Freemasonry and the Mason fields, okay, or Masonic fields, which are, those professions, the labor professions, the arts, the guilds, okay, so on and so forth. There is a distinct division. A lot of people just accept that, oh, Freemasonry, okay, and lump it all together. No, that is not the case. And you need to understand that there is a major border of division, or borderline of division, between that secret society of Freemasonry and just Freemasonry or Masonry in general, okay? Now then, as I have proclaimed before, exclaimed before in my past recordings of talks on various topics, I speak of the gods, and I speak about, the stone builders of ancient times, the block builders that came after the stone builders, or the rock and boulder constructionists. Okay, and there's a lot more to that story. But when you think of these big blocks of stone right away, well, you have images of the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, right? Now, when it comes to the Great Pyramids, obelisks, and lingams that are found in temples in India and whatnot, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that I'm saying that properly. Um, Now, I have thrown out theories on other channels suggesting that, okay, this is this is this is my theory over those three items. Um, that basically at one point in time, because the pyramids, and I'm going to go further into this, the pyramids themselves, um, well, okay, back in the 1970s when I was in school, in which a lot of things that are occurring today are so, they parallel the late 60s and early 70s to mid 70s. It's just uncanny, and I'm not going to go into that. But, yeah, just open your eyes, okay? So, furthermore, back in the early 70s, pyramid power was a big talking point. UFOs was a big talking point, okay? Everybody was discussing topics such as that, paranormal, ghost hunting, okay? There was a lot of, Hollywood movies that were out about witchcraft and Satanism, and yeah, okay? So you have to make the connections right there. Okay, so my theory is basically that the pyramids, obelisks, temples, and possibly some other structures out there was part of, well, let's say a global power grid for a communication and self-defense planetary system. Okay? Now I want you to remember that. Now, most people have been programmed to believe that pyramids are four-sided. In fact, well, according to this, that, and the other thing, we have found out that they are now eight-sided. Okay? And I'm going to bring up now the Rosicrucians, which they are a branch of, supposedly, from the Knights Templar. I myself, back between 1998 and the early 2000s, I received correspondence from the Rosicrucians as an invite into their organization, group, or whatever you want to call them. Yeah, I never, well, I'm not sure if I think I did respond to get a little bit more additional information from them, and I did, and then I kind of just left it at that. So anyways, the Rosicrucians, their symbol is an 8-pointed red cross. Okay, now the Crusaders, they used the red cross as their emblem, as well as the Knights Templar. Okay, later on in history, we have the story of Christopher Columbus, who did not discover America, but yet on his sails, what emblem was there but a red cross? Okay, now, there are theories out there that the Templar Knights actually came to America long before Christopher Columbus, and that is how, Christopher Columbus actually got his navigational charts and whatnot through the Queen of Spain. And so the Knights Templar had supposedly come over here in search of ancient technologies and other types of advanced civilization technology and other things related to dark magic. Okay, now as these formations are moving, I'm just kind of going right with them. Okay, so what were the Templar Knights? Well, basically they were warrior styled monks. Okay, and I find it, here's another strange connection. The clothing attire that I find most comfortable beyond just my own skin, that of a bathrobe. I wear my bathrobes a lot, and people know this, okay? And in fact, there's a police report out there that even makes mention of me and my bathrobes long past. Yeah, I'm telling you, I got a strange life. So this is kind of where, these little, I don't know, I'm really starting to have a curiosity over whether my bloodline actually goes back, and if I have a lineage to this society, or a connection in a past life or something like that, because it's strange how I am just being bombarded by this information now, and it's, like I said, going towards that American history story. And I'm sorry for the background noise. That's our racetrack. They've already fired up and doing whatever down there. Okay, now there's a quote by Napoleon which states, history is a set of lies that are agreed upon. Okay? History is a set of lies that are agreed upon. There's another popular saying out there, quote, or phrase, whatever, that those that win wars write the history books. right? Well, look how much we've got this clearing off. All this is headed towards that greater light. And I'm not going to go to that yet. We'll try our sky observations, our Sirius sky observations shortly. Okay, so anyways, with those two quotes or sayings or what have you, they play a significant part in all of this. Now, as far as, like I said, as possible bloodlines, heritage, lineage, or whatever, that could be flowing through me, or maybe it's a spirit connection to those past lives, and that's why I'm being downloaded with information, and that right there is a scary thought in itself, being downloaded with information. Okay, because what is that today? Yeah. So real quick, I've been tuning into tarot card readings on YouTube, and this has been going on for a couple of years now, and there's been just this ongoing story, basically, of my life that's been out there being broadcast and aired, because so much of what they speak of just resonates so highly with me. It is unbelievable. And there's been readings that have stated, hey, you have broken a curse within your family bloodline. And the spirits, angels, and guides, and all that are proud of you, and this is why you're advancing in your spiritual connection and towards an ascension um, later in the many lives that we live. Okay, so now real quick, let's go ahead and jump over to Disney. Okay, there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there about Disney. All right, and I'm gonna leave most all of that alone, other than to bring up some information that I gleaned earlier today through that podcast and thought to share. All right, so uh, Disney has a club that is known as Club 33. Okay, well, why does that number sound familiar? Yeah, 33. 33 degree level in the Freemason Society hierarchy. Okay, and basically this is a secret club. Okay, outsiders are not allowed. This is for certain specific individuals only, and which there's a high price to pay to be a member of the club, to partake in activities of the club, so on and so forth. Okay, Disney owns ABC, one of those large mainstream media companies, right? ABC is a major contributor to the advertising of Hollywood-generated productions. You see this on their morning program, Good Morning America, to where you get about 15 minutes to 20 minutes of headline news, if you want to call it that, and weather. And then they go into basically sports, which is entertainment. It's just all entertainment from there on out. And which, it's very pathetic. Typically, I will just tune into the bottom headline crawl at the bottom, read that, and go from there to something else. Now, from information that I have gleaned over the years, and what little I know of the United Nations, there's a tie-in somewhere with that society. Now, September 24th through September 30th, there is a gathering at the United Nations to discuss peace measures. World peace. You got to understand that all countries belong to the United Nations. The headquarters to the United Nations, as far as I last heard and understand, is there in New York City, the Empire City. Okay, and what does King James Version Bible speak of the empire? What does Nostradamus speak of the empire? Yeah. Talk of China has been in the news quite a lot here lately. Well, here's another interesting factoid, and this connects now China to Egypt. This is radical. So we're back at the pyramids. The Chinese, through some kind of contraption or device or whatnot, have discovered plasma bubbles. Plasma bubbles that are transparent. They say you can't see them. Well, you know what? Check out all my recordings. You might see a whole lot of transparent bubbles in my recordings. And these are, within the blue, the shades of blue. They're circular. They are a type of color that is not like the shades of blue around them. They kind of look like some kind of a silhouette or something. And they have popped up numerous times in my recordings. Now, this is what's crazy. In many of my recordings that these show up, which a lot of people, they don't see these because they're programmed not to see. Okay, I see this stuff no problem, for the most part, and just like I can see through all this nonsense here. And well, what I have in my recordings, these spheres, bubbles, whatever, man, they look huge. Well, now get this. So the Chinese, through this little device or contraption, these can be a couple of 100 miles in diameter. Okay? And through this device, they can see these things. And they say that they're hovering right above the Great Pyramid. And even clinging to the sides of those brick outer walls. Okay, so once again, what are plasma bubbles? Well, they're types of energy, right? Okay, and well, kind of akin to ball lightning, right? Now this is where it ties in even more, is because once again, what did I just say as far as my theory with the pyramids and the obelisks and the lingams, yeah, whatever. Yeah, and that being of communications, for the purposes of communication and defense. Now we'll get there. Okay, so basically what the Chinese have now declared is that the pyramids are still generating power, and which they state that it's electricity. I'm not going to go into forms of energy, but what we use today, you have to understand where that came from, how, the whole story behind that, as far as Edison and Tesla, what occurred, and what Tesla, just like Elon Musk, which he's adapted Tesla's research, right? Natural found energy from the energy in our own environment or whatever, and harnessing that. Whoops, we just kind of blurred out there. Yeah, I accidentally hit my screen. And so, okay, now, what is Starlink? Well, that is a communication system that also has defense properties to those satellites. This is why the FCC shut down that satellite system a little while back, because Elon Musk had threatened to use them against Russia. Okay? Now, this is a real kicker. Back in the mid-90s, we had a TV series that began known as Stargate SG-1. In that program, there is an episode to where Daniel Jackson, who is a civilian working for the military, the Air Force, in a secret program using Stargate technology or portals to go from this planet to other planets, in which there is a portion to where it's one of those what-if scenarios of Daniel Jackson putting a planetary communication and self-defense grid of satellites around the planet. And thing is in that episode, Daniel Jackson pushed a button and destroyed Red Square, Moscow, Russia. Yeah, okay? That's predictive programming there for you. I told you I'm putting a lot out there today. Okay, so now as the cloud Passover is ending, so is the content for this recording, right? And I'm going to end it like this. Some state that Freemasonry began in ancient Greece and Egypt. Where's the New Testament writings come from? Oh, hey, we got us a big one up here someplace. There he is. Real quick, real quick. Okay. Oh, man. So, yeah, the New Testament writings originated in Greece. Now we have a connection to Egypt and Greece, as well as, I guess, China in some aspects, and which, according to some, Freemasonry started within secret societies back then. Others proclaim that Freemasonry actually started in the medieval ages. Now then, the King James Version Bible was created in those medieval ages, and that is why there is all this therefore and thou and this and that, is because that was the tongue or language of that time period, right? That Shakespearean tongue. Now then, I can honestly dispute both of those claims and state that, oh, no. That society has gone through many evolutions since its origination. And as far as I am concerned, it tells you right in that secret society manuscript known as the King James Version Bible, it tells you, that basically this all began through those so-called fallen ones, in which I proclaim that those fallen ones were humans far, far off into the future that have come back to this planet because of this time loop scenario, and which all of their geometry and mathematics in their society and the codes and the Bible code, because that is how secret societies work, is within these secret codes and symbols. Who do you think controls this reality? who do you think they really are? These are those so-called gods that came down from the heavens, that is spoken of in all of your religions. Yeah, I mean, it gets crazy, people. And I'm not asking you to, to accept anything other than to use an open mind and to maybe understand how these connections come together. I mean, there's just so much out there, so many branch offs to all of this, but you have to understand the timeline and the events within the timeline and all that connected together and the evolution, and it will, wow, it will open your eyes, because you have to understand too, this country was founded on that good book, was it not? In God We Trust, and all that. And I could show you, American currency in paper form, if you want to call it that, with the pyramid and the eye and so on and so forth. Well, I took that evil eye in the sky in my previous video, and I thought, okay, hey, this information came to me this morning, I'm seeing that, let's do this. Well, this is about done. And I'm going to take that as yet another sign that this is to be done as well. And we will conclude it at that. Let me know your thoughts. I know there's some of you that, well, yeah, you will be commenting. But when you realize that these connections, that they are connected, what is there to say other than add to it, right? If you got an open mind, you can't, you cannot disprove the connectivity of all of this stuff. And there's so much more. It's unbelievable. But I'm going to leave it there. I mean, I've got more that's, at the back of my head right now, and not therefore at the tip of my tongue. So I'm going to go ahead and end this as I stated, because this is another sign to do so. We'll be back. Like I said, I'm going to keep my eyes open for any possible rings of coloration around that light. But otherwise, we will see you at sometime soon. Or some point, sometime soon. My brain is like just going overtime, and here I'm supposed to be, getting my physical body back in train my physical body to get back doing what it's supposed to. Man, I'm seeing some colors up here, possibly. Sorry for the shakiness, but whenever it zooms in, yeah, that's what happens. So, hey, let's just go ahead and throw this out there. So I have recordings to where we see a lot of symbols. Okay, we see a lot of symbols and letters, numbers within the clouds and about the clouds. Yes, I am quite certain that society has their fingers in the mix of this as well, and so much more. And a lot of people want to talk about black rock. Well, anything that talks about solid foundations, rocks, or what have you, well, I hope that you will be thinking of this type of content here. All right? We'll see you soon.